Why do I name myself after Egyptian or Kemetic, because I call them Kemetic deities and Kemetic gods or individuals that existed in the Egyptian or Kemetic culture? That's a question that I got, and I'm going to address that. Again, it is, why do I name myself after Egyptian or Kemetic deities and individuals? The first thing I point out here is that the Egyptian deities existed. They have found most of the bodies and graves, or whatever you want to call it, or caskets or tombs of the pharaohs in ancient Egypt. They have found a lot of their bodies or whatever, so they existed. That's the first thing I want to point out. And the second thing I'm going to go ahead and point out is the fact that why I named myself after, first of all, Ra. Well, really what it is that I don't name myself after Ra. Like, I didn't name myself after Ra. Ra is actually short for my name because my full name is Rasheen. So Ra is my name for short. But many of you know that Ra was an ancient Egyptian deity, the sun god, Ra. And my name has his name in it. Like, my full name has the name Ra in it. So people have always called me Ra for short. I was born with that name. And my name is a Kemetic name. It's an Egyptian name. It's not a Muslim name. It's no such thing as a Muslim name. It's not an Arabic name, even though it's similar to many Arabic names. Now, the reason why I name myself after or take on the Egyptian name is because the ancient Egyptian language is the oldest language. It's the oldest spoken language as far as in the grouping of languages. The Arabic, the Hebrew, even some of the Sanskrit, all derived from the ancient Egyptian language, which was called the Metu Neter. Some of our Nubian brothers call it Nuapic or Nuabic. So yeah, it's the oldest language. So this is why I chose to name myself after so-called, really not after Egyptian deities, but I've chosen to name myself in older tones, in the oldest language. The Egyptian language is a language of tones, and each tone links us back to a different aspect of the universe. Each tone links us back to a different aspect of the universe. When you speak English, really English is a bastardized form of many different languages and a compilation of many different languages, because in truth there was one language. Like in the Bible, when it talks about when God says let us go down there and divide their languages, in truth there was only one language. And at some point this God of the Bible, which was really in actuality a group of extraterrestrial beings that came down. I know many of you are really like, oh, I'm confused now. And I'll have to address the extraterrestrial aspect later on, because I am going to be addressing that in another video. But I'm just trying to go ahead and put out this information. When in the Bible, when God or this extraterrestrial said, let us go down there and divide their languages, because it was actually in relation to the Tower of Babel story. When Nimrod and his group was building the Tower of Babel, they spoke one language. And the God of that story came down and divided the language because he feared that it was nothing that they would be able to do, and that they would build a gateway to the Most High. See, the Tower of Babel actually is talking about, it actually means a gateway to El. The Tower of Babel means gateway to El. That's what it means in the Hebrew translation, which actually comes from the Sumerian language, which actually comes from the Egyptian language. So basically what I'm getting at is this. At one point, humans spoke one language, but over time, the language began to divide into dialects. It began to divide into dialects. A dialect is basically another way of speaking a certain language. Like in the Arabic, for instance, you have different dialects of Arabic. Arabic is the language, but you have different dialects of Arabic, or the Arabiya. So where I'm getting at is this, that when I call myself or name myself after Egyptian deities and Egyptian tones, I'm naming myself in the original tone and language. I'm going all the way back to the origin, and I like to go back to the origins of things. So this is why I chose my name. And actually, my full name is not Rashim Imhotep. I have a longer name than that, and that's too much to go into right now. That's my legal name is something else. It's not Rashim Imhotep. This is a name that I use on the internet. This is not my full name. Many of you who actually know me know my full name, but I won't give out that information here because this is YouTube. But my name is Rashim Imhotep L, and you can call me that. That's my name as far as online, Rashim Imhotep L. And those tones go back and link you back to the original, or to the origin of words, languages, and tones, and that's why I chose to name myself that. People ask me, am I Nubian? And basically, do I follow Dr. Malachi York and things of that nature? It has nothing to do with that. I've studied the Nubian language. I've studied the Nubian doctrine. I've came to find out that Dr. Malachi York didn't make this doctrine up. It came from the Sumerians. It came from the Egyptians. And he simply taught and demonstrated the information to a group of people. So, no, I'm not following any man. I mean, I just basically teach the information. I respect the Nubians. I have a lot of Nubian friends. One of my teachers was a Nubian, but no, I'm not a Nubian. Like I said, the reason why I named myself after Egyptian deities is because it's the origin of languages. All languages are mere dialects of the ancient Egyptian language. I don't care what language you're dealing with. They all come from the one ancient Egyptian language, which was the Metu Neter, or some people call it the Nuapic, or whatever you want to call it, the language of the Kemites. Now, why do I name myself Imhotep? The aspect of Imhotep, this name was given to me. This name was given to me by my guides. It was passed on to me, and I was told that I'm to pattern myself after Imhotep. And if you research and study the story of Imhotep, that is my mission, to pattern myself after Imhotep, and I was taught that by my guides. I don't really care if you don't believe this or not. You can say that, you know what I'm saying, like I'm making this thing up or whatever. The bottom line is that this is what it is, because I get a lot of scrutiny from Christians, and they try to basically say that the Egyptians were pagans and that you shouldn't name yourself after Egyptian tones and after the Egyptian language. But really what they don't realize is that all their information comes from the Egyptians. The whole story of Jesus is the story of Heru. So, I mean, you're saying that the Egyptians were pagans, but you wouldn't even have a religion if it wasn't for the Egyptians. All of your prophets went into Egypt to study. Jesus went into Egypt. He was taught in Egypt. Moses went into Egypt. He was taught in Egypt. All of your prophets went into Egypt. Even Prophet Muhammad went into Ethiopia and Egypt. He was actually from Ethiopia, Prophet Muhammad was, and studied in Egypt. And they had what's called an Egyptian mystery system. So all of your prophets had to go through Egypt. Noble Ali, who was a modern prophet, he was called the Egyptian Adab. So there is no prophet out there that didn't go through the Egyptian mystery system. So why do I name myself after Egyptian tones? Because it's the right thing to do. It's the oldest language, and I don't want to trace myself back to anything that is grafted or that is not of the origin. So I chose to name myself after ancient Egyptian tones and languages. I hope this makes sense. I hope you guys learned something from this. This was an inquiry that was asked of me, and I decided to put it out in a video because I get this question a lot. So now I have it documented, so when somebody asks me this question, I can just simply show them this video. And that's the reason for this video and the purpose for this video. For more enlightening information, you can visit 13signsastrology.com. Again, that's the number 13, signs plural, astrology.com. If you want to ask me a question, any question, I'll try my best to answer it. And I am answering questions as they are received. You can email me at 13signsastrology@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to answer your questions the best way I know how. I thank you for listening and watching. You have a blessed and successful day. Peace.